Okay, is this... Yes, it is.
Hello!
Hello! We haven't done one of these podcasts...
Oh, we're actually doing it now? Okay.
Yes. One of these podcast thingies in a long, long time, so we're doing this now because...
So, we were talking about something and we said, this would make a good podcast topic.
We've actually been sitting here having, arguments about...
various things.
For,
things that we've already discussed on this podcast. There was a thing about cultural appropriation.
Yes. And such, and yeah, so we've been talking about it for over an hour, and then we were talking about something, and he's like, no, we should do a podcast about this. So the topic of this podcast, it's
this is probably going to be a meandering podcast.
But so to start off with, so this book, The Return to Modesty by Wendy Shallot, this came out when I was a teenager. I saw it in a store. I picked it up, looked at it, felt like I should read it, and then was like, no, it might depress me, and I put it back. And then 5 or 6 years later, when I was in college, I read it, and I wished I had read it earlier, and I got copies for all of my friends, and I thought it was the greatest book, and I wanted to be part of the revolution that it was going to spark, where it would bring down our horrible society. And I actually contacted the author, and I was featured on her website, and she actually quoted me in her second book. When I got the second book, I was super...
seriously?
Yeah. And I was...
And then the other shit happened.
Well, no, I was very disappointed by the second book, and I was disappointed when she quoted me, she edited the quote that slightly changed certain things and stuff.
Oh, what was the quote that you said?
It was something from my blog at the time where I took things I took passages from Cosmopolitan and stuff and deconstructed them using my English techniques to show how they were evil and oppressive to women. Basically, on my website, she's of the premise. So the thing is that in her original book, it's all about how women have the right to not have sex, to be uncomfortable with sex, to choose to not wear revealing clothing. And that
society pressuring them to do so.
And that society pressures them to do so, and they should not have that pressure. They should have the ability...
Absolutely no pressure from anywhere to do anything.
There were hints that it wasn't that, but
yeah.
The second book turns...
can we just... There we are.
Yeah. The second book turns very much into their...
Women are better if
they don't. Yeah. So, for example,
You took the first book as saying, women should choose whatever they want as a kind of backlash against some people wanting to replace one shitty standard system with another shitty standard system.
Right.
And then you read the second book and you realized, she just wants to bring us back to the first shitty standard system.
So, that it was
What
very...
is that white dot on your neck?
What?
It's like some light reflection.
No, it's a pixel thing.
No, it's like some kind of weird...
No, it just appeared again.
Yeah, no, it's some kind of weird light reflection. That's so weird. I don't know. It's right on your neck.
Is it coming off of the mic? What the fuck?
No, because when I move, I'm blocking the... No, okay, we can stop obsessing over it.
It's not on you. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, notice we are not wearing headsets.
We have that thing. Don't move it around.
We have a new mic now that costs $70,
but it is so much better than the headset.
What the fuck is this reflection thing?
It's I think it might be... Maybe it's just on the screen. Maybe they can't actually see it. Maybe we're all just going around crazily.
Okay, but yeah, so the first book was about women not being pressured into being sexual. The second one moved towards actually sort of censoring women who choose to be sexual.
Oh no, it's not on the screen. They can totally see that.
Can we somehow?
No.
Move so it's not in my face. God damn it! Freudian Spuds is way too amusing. So even though I'm very into, women having choice, and I personally don't choose to have sex if I'm not in a committed relationship, even though that's kind of not actually a choice because of my demisexuality. But
whatever.
But I do choose to have sex when I'm in a committed relationship, and I didn't hide the fact of that on my website. So she edited out any reference to me not being a virgin, so that it was like, oh, we can't risk girls getting the idea that, having sex is okay. Like, and one of the things was a quote from me saying, like, saying not to have sex in Teen Magazine back in the day, this was in the early 2000s or something, there was an article of how to check if you're ready for sex. And a lot of, some questions said like, oh, have you, figured out what you're going to do for contraception yet? Have you had like a physical exam so you're in good physical health, etc.? And I'm like, yes, good, you should be doing these things. But one of the questions was, are you emotionally prepared for your partner to leave you after you have sex?
What if you're in the kind of relationship with...
Yeah, and I by that stand,
That's kind of shitty. What if you take sex seriously?
Well, that was the whole thing. I wrote this whole like thing on my blog about how by that standard, a great many people, including me, would never be ready to have sex. Like, that's not a question of maturity. And I said this thing about how what you should be worrying about is finding someone who respects you and isn't going to hurt you like that. Like, I'm like, if somebody cares so little about your feelings,
why the fuck are you having sex?
That you would just leave them, why are you giving them such a great privilege to have sex with you?
Of course, that's how you feel about it. Other people might feel otherwise, and whatever.
Well, no, I mean...
Like, that's kind of the point. It's just like replacing one shitty standard system with another.
Well, yeah, if emotional commitment is not important to you, that's fine. But this is like saying...
as a defined rule.
Emotional commitment cannot be important to you.
That spiritual apathy is the ultimate ideal.
Right. And I wrote a thing, protesting against that and whatever, and she quoted that in her book, but she snipped out all of the parts that revealed that I had actually had sex, which I was a little bit miffed about. But so we were having this, we were discussing about this. And the thing that made Fornius be like, yes, we need to talk about this in a podcast was, and I didn't fully make my point to him, so, is that people who choose to wait to have sex or whatever do so for various different reasons. And maybe you should talk about this because, like I said, you have, like, the complex multi-reason thing.
So, yeah. I am Catholic. So, of course, my religion teaches that you shouldn't go around, like, sleeping around with people. You should, at the very least, wait until you're in a committed relationship.
He plays a little fast and loose with the Catholic.
No, there are some Catholics that are like, so long as you're in a committed long-term relationship, it's fine. You can look the other way.
It's very medieval, I approve.
Yes.
Because no, so that's serious. Like, the way, so when we first met and like,
But yeah, I haven't finished talking, so
Yeah.
let me... So, but beyond that, that is actually what I want. It's not like, oh, I wish that I could sleep around with random people, but I'm doing the moral thing. It's just like, no, emotionally, personality-wise, I wouldn't have sex with somebody that I wasn't intending to spend the rest of my life with. That's just not the kind of person I am.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that that's better or anything, that's just not who I am. Even beyond spiritually as well, but beyond that, I just take sex incredibly seriously.
And so the thing is that this dog is really bugging me now. Thank you so much. So the thing is,
Why block it out? What's... Don't mind me. I blocked
it's
it out.
coming in through the window.
Yeah, I knew it was off the window, so...
God damn it, we can't get rid of it unless you like cover your face.
Which arm was it? Keep talking. Just
so
ignore
distracting
me.
to me.
Just ignore me.
So the thing is that for me, I don't have that. My
Okay,
religion
so-
actually kind of encourages you to sleep around.
Well, remember, your religion is incredibly, individualistic.
Yes.
The social aspect of your religion encourages you to do that.
Yes. But I obviously, am completely opposed to that because I'm demisexual. But growing up, I didn't know that. And it really, really irritated me because saying, well, I choose not to have sex or I choose not to wear revealing clothing or whatever for my religious beliefs, I found that people consider that socially acceptable. But to say I choose not to do those things because of my own personal values or my own personal comfort level would invoke a very negative reaction. So one of the things...
You should tell the burqa story.
That was what I was just going to do. I was in a class about a world literature class or something, or about reading literature from other cultures. I believe my senior year in college, in high school. Yeah, it was my senior year in high school, but it was the first semester. But anyway, so one of the things that happened there was that she brought in this Muslim woman to speak to our class who had trained as a teacher, trained to be like an elementary school teacher. And had received some hostility from parents that, didn't want their child being taught by a woman wearing a traditional Muslim garb, and it wasn't even like a full burqa. She wore
A hijab, the light headscarf.
Yeah, she wore a headscarf that left her face fully uncovered, and she wore
a
long sleeve floor length dress.
I kind of understand the burqa. I don't see why people are so opposed to the hijab. It just looks like a fashion statement to me.
Yes.
Even though I think it's kind of shitty to react to the burqa, I can still understand the reaction to the burqa.
I mean, there are legitimate concerns about the burqa, even in Muslim countries. Concerns are
visibility.
Well, the thing is, you can't identify people. You can't. It causes. Some countries don't allow women to drive while wearing the burqa because it restricts visibility.
Because obviously, yeah.
I read lots of autobiographies and memoirs of women from Muslim countries, and one of them talked about that they banned the burqa in a medical school because it would created hygiene problems because it would fall into the they were doing a dissection, and the instructor saw that this woman's burqa was falling into the specimen while she was working on it, and obviously that causes cross-contamination and stuff. But I mean, to me, that wearing a hijab, it's no different than if you have long hair, if you're working in food service or in the medical professions or something, you need to tie back your hair, wear a hairnet, whatever. you can tie your hijab back, like pin it on the back of your head, whatever. There are ways around if you if you want to wear that in those situations.
Sorry, I got us distracted.
So,
tell the story.
So she came in and she spoke to us and she told us her story. And it was very much, she was raised in America. She was raised by a very Western family. She wore Western clothes growing up. It was her decision living on her own, I think she said she started doing it either late in undergrad or in grad school. And she didn't even cite religious reasons as her motivation. She said, I choose to dress like this because I feel that when I dress like this, I am respected as a person instead of as a female body. Like my colleagues, when I don't dress like this, they see my appearance. When I dress like this, they see my intelligence, which really, really spoke to me because this is something that I, have had an issue with all my life growing up. And when I was starting in 7th grade until after high school, I wore, everything I wore it wasn't always long sleeved and I didn't cover my hair, but everything I wore was...
Now we should turn this on.
Yeah, maybe that'll get rid of the thing.
Looks like day. This actually doesn't look too bad.
Why don't we move this way slightly? Can you move... No, this is actually making it worse.
Yeah, I told you, this wasn't that bad. We want the... It was perfect and you ruined it.
Shut up.
No, stop moving it!
No, this is not good.
It was perfect before!
Oh my
there we go.
God. Sorry, everybody. My living room does not have an overhead light, so the only way we can have light in here is this backlit lamp.
Maybe we could turn that light on.
Well, why don't you go turn it on then? I'm trying to tell this goddamn story.
Okay.
What are you doing? No, don't turn that off. Turn the other thing on first. So that was really, really meaningful to me, and then that already looks better. And then it was...
Yeah, that's perfect.
And then after she left, the teacher, talking to us was like, well, so how do you guys feel? And
everyone in the class was like, oh yeah, good for her.
Yeah, it's her choice, of course. But there's always this thing when women choose to wear hijab or something that they're like, oh, well, they're being oppressed by Islam or whatever.
Or brainwashed.
So to counter that, I said...
Because this is also what you actually thought.
Yeah, I'm like, who says it's motivated by religion at all? I'm not Muslim. I have no relatives who are Muslim. I'm not Arabic. I don't have,
you're like German and American, pretty much.
Right, but, I have no connection. And I was like, I want to dress like that. For all of those reasons that she said. And then everybody was like, ooh, weird.
Yeah.
And I wrote about that in my end of semester essay thing. And the teacher was like, I don't know what you're talking about. They supported her. And nobody seemed to understand the idea that when... you're told to do this by your religion. Somehow that's okay, but if you want to do it for yourself...
Yeah, if you want to be modest or,
abstinent or whatever.
Abstinent, chaste, whatever. Because your religion says so, that's okay. If you want to do it just because you want to, that's bad.
Right, and this was the thing, this was kind of what I was talking about with Wendy Shallot's stuff. That even before she got sort of like...
You haven't even talked about what she actually...
What?
She starts getting all religious in her later books.
Well, not precisely, but she talks about religion and she talks about subscribing to old-fashioned morals and all of this other... About, how it was nice when people watched out for the virtue of young women because then they could be like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to go home. My parents are waiting up for me.
Wait, what?
Oh,
okay.
To use that as an excuse to get out of having sex.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a massive problem with this because that is acting as a smokescreen for a woman's right to just not want to have sex because she doesn't want to have sex.
She has to have a reason.
Not because her religion forbids it or her parents forbid it or like it'll be scandalous if she does, but because she genuinely feels uncomfortable. Like,
and that's what you really liked about the book.
No, that's not what I liked about the book.
Well, you liked the fact that the first book told you that it's okay.
No. It said that. It reiterated over and over again, but then it had these other elements. And this was the thing that made him say, oh yeah, we have to do a podcast on this. Because when I said, because you have two reasons. Yes, you're like, yes, I do genuinely, this is what I genuinely want. But also my religion, and I was like, because everybody, if you try to talk about that, will simply focus on the fact that you are Catholic.
Yes.
Because that doesn't require them to confront their discomfort with the idea of somebody just not wanting to sleep around. And that's why I'm like, we need to stop talking about, oh, I'm not having sex for religious reasons or whatever. That needs to just be off the table.
Unless that actually is the only reason you want to not have sex.
I mean, whatever, if you
You do you, but be honest why you're doing you.
I mean, if you don't have to give a reason, then it shouldn't matter what your reason is.
That too, yeah.
As I said when I was writing about this in my blog, I was like,
oh, the dot's still there.
God damn it, why'd you have to bring that up? It's in a different spot now, though.
Because we all moved. Now it's like a bright nipple.
God damn it! Now
don't move it.
I don't know. Now you're gonna.
Stop moving it.
I'm being modest. God damn it! Now I'm gonna have to sit like this for the rest of the podcast.
Why?
Because I don't want people thinking about that or looking at that.
There we go.
That I was like, the only invalid reason to not have sex with somebody is your boobs are not big enough.
Wait, what?
The only unacceptable reason to refuse to have sex with somebody is if their boobs are not big enough or something. And
you mean it's shitty if you do it because you're doing it based on appearance.
Right, but otherwise it really shouldn't fucking matter. Whether it's because of religious reasons or because they just don't feel comfortable. Whatever, I'm not ready, I don't feel, I don't...
And of course, people in society will not accept that reason.
Right.
I just don't feel ready.
Yeah, and my point is that if you
I just realized because I said I was Catholic, people will probably think I have some kind of ulterior motive, just like the person in that book.
What do you mean ulterior motive? What ulterior motive?
I don't know, just try to convince people to go back to the old shitty standard system.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's the thing. Anybody who knows you knows that that's not how you operate. That the old shitty system...
Shitty standard system.
Yeah. Disallows a whole lot of stuff that you...
This is not what the podcast is about. Moving on.
I wasn't going to go into details, but clearly you don't want me to.
Correct.
What do you always do?
Moving on.
Yeah, so why, But anyway, the thing is that, no, you don't, you certainly aren't trying to convert people or whatever.
Or socially revert.
Yes. But that I think that it's really important that we...
I feel like we've done a podcast on this.
On what?
On this subject.
What subject?
The subject we're talking about.
We haven't.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we didn't have a clearly defined subject, but the idea that it's important that the discomfort is reason enough. that we don't have to like say like, oh, this is because of my religion or something. And the fact that people, one of the things she talks about a lot in her first book is that when she talks about like her like advocation for modesty and everything, even starting at a young age but on into her adult life, she talks about how people like respond by asking her if she's been raped or sexually assaulted or that she had a bad experience to make her so uncomfortable.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, and here's the funny thing. That actually happened to me. When I was working as a dominatrix and I refused to sleep with one of my clients or let him touch me inappropriately, he asked me, did an uncle molest you? Like, I kid you not.
That is... Isn't the sub supposed to be, like, respectful towards the dominatrix?
You would think, but, you asking that, it's a little funny, but no. When you're in a professional setting, you get so many clients that are just, like, they try to do all kinds of shit to you. Like, which is one of the reasons why I don't do it professionally anymore. Because I was so fucking tired of dealing with that. It was...
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is not like cheap prostitution, people.
No, that isn't that cheap?
Well, maybe not. I don't know.
It's just the way you put it.
Well, I mean, my understanding was that if somebody was actually selling sex, they would charge a lot more, but maybe that's not true. I don't know. Actually, I guess from what I've seen, the going rate for, like, independent prostitutes is about the same as for independent doms, but... Anyway, the point is that it's like, no, don't use this as, like, a fake, like, a front for prostitution or whatever. Like, that's not what this service is, and I am under no obligation to whatever. Oh yeah, and this was the other thing that really bothered me, both about my clients as a dom and about just like subs in general that I interacted with, is they would be like, why do you not want to have sex with me? Is it because I'm fat? Is it because I'm ugly? And I'm like, and I didn't know I was demisexual at the time. I could have been like, no, it's because I'm demisexual. But I was like, no, it's because I'm just not interested in having sex with most people. Like, like the guy also originally started, he's like, are you afraid if we do something that your boyfriend will beat you? And I was like, no.
Oh my fucking god.
And then he was like, is it just because I'm really unattractive? And I'm like, no, it's because I don't have sex with people that I'm not personally connected to. Because that's just who I am. He was the one, I told you about this. He was the one that said, I don't understand why a woman as beautiful as you doesn't have many lovers. And I said, because I don't want them. Like, you kind of had a problem. I told you about this because at first you were like, I don't understand why you don't sleep with more people or something.
What? I never said that.
Or you said you'd like it if I slept with more people or something like that. Okay.
So yeah, we just had a bit of a problem just there. Okay. With like...
Sorry. I guess it is my turn to be embarrassed now.
Just like... Well, yeah, this is about just, like, respecting people feeling uncomfortable. I just felt uncomfortable with something she said.
Okay.
It's okay.
I suppose I deserve this, being...
Deserve what?
Well, the fact that this is the thing, that this going on the internet is what's making me really uncomfortable. Like, I'm humiliated that this is going to be out there.
Well, no. So, yeah, it's... So, yeah, because... I think this stems from my autism, but just, like, her saying that just without me being prepared was very disturbing to me.
I don't feel like saying anything in my own defense, so...
No, say what you said to me about...
well, because...
Oh...
Why don't you say it, then? Why don't you start?
Okay, yeah. So say the thing about your ex-husband.
Oh, well, so the thing is that, I mean, first of all, I like to talk about sex a lot. I mean, whatever. To me, talking about it is actually a lot more interesting than doing it frequently. And also, on top of that, I want to talk about it and talk about my experiences related to it because of my SJW-ness, if you will. Like,
Wait, what?
well, because I want to use it as a forum to make changes.
Yeah.
You know, that I want to talk about my experiences because they say counteract common perceptions that I think are bad or whatever. And he was an extremely private person.
He?
My ex-husband.
I would say I'm still a very private person.
Yes, that worries me. But he would just be so like, you can't talk about anything about me. And my thing was, but I have sex with you, so I can't actually talk about my sex life. Like, he wouldn't even want me to talk to my friends about it. Like, I couldn't have like a girls' night out and we talk about our boyfriends or whatever. Like, he would get angry about that. But beyond that, I was like, but we have, a very long-term monogamous relationship that isn't sexually boring. And since people claim that that's so rare and so unlikely, I want to talk about it to prove that it exists. And I can't talk about it without talking about you because you're part of that equation. And so I felt like I was shut down from like advocating for things that are important to me. So therefore I have,
So when I start like expressing like misgivings of her accidentally saying something.
And to be honest, I guess this is going to be really embarrassing to go on to go into public, but I guess on a certain level I slipped on purpose because you tell me intellectually it's not about actually talking about it, it's about it coming out of nowhere and in the right context it's okay.
Because I've talked about all this like stuff on other podcasts.
Well, not yet really, but
Yeah, there was that other podcast.
I don't remember which one you're talking about, but
There were other podcasts. I probably revealed a lot more.
But because with him it was just like, no, this is never going to be okay. End of discussion.
Not me.
Right, but and this is probably more appropriate for the other podcast, but I have so much baggage and it's so hard for me to like navigate things because I developed all these bad habits from being in a suppressive relationship, etc., that in a way, like, that used to be my only way that I could do things, basically, was to slip up like that. So I think, at least on a subconscious level, it was intentional. Why are we talking about this? Nobody wants to see a video of our personal problems.
You don't know this. This might become the most popular podcast ever, and then we'll have to do more of this.
You mean like
entire podcast
like
talking about
your drunk Minecraft Let's Play was the most popular video ever that was going to get hundreds of views?
Wait, what? Is that what I said during it?
Yes, repeatedly.
Maybe it will.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I did. Yeah. So that side note, if people, it's just okay to say, I feel uncomfortable with this.
Yes, and then it's okay for the other person to be uncomfortable because you feel uncomfortable. Okay, so you can find something else to make this interesting now because I
don't know. What's this?
That has nothing.
Oh, Burt's Bees. Okay, whatever.
That's my.
I thought it was one of your like herbal.
Oh God! Were you gonna try to drink it? You fucktard.
Yeah, one of those like sprays.
No.
Those are so nice.
Yeah, I got these herbal sprays that are supposed to be like, you know, antidepressants or help you sleep or whatever, that you spray them into your mouth. And then he just fucking drinks it, and I'm like
I
run
don't
out
drink
of them
it.
now because he's consumed them all.
Because they make you feel happy.
Because they have alcohol in them.
Do they? Well, they have a little bit of alcohol, but most medicine does. But no, they're like, they really work. They like really make you happy. And not in a drunk way.
Sounds like they work a lot better on you than they do on me.
Well, they probably just make you normal.
Maybe. Or less depressed.
Yeah.
That's actually what we should be talking about in the other podcast. No, but about this topic. Oh yeah, we got onto that topic because we were talking about the idea that of women like retroactively revoking consent for sex. And you said, well, what about situations where somebody's really emotionally distraught? And I said, well, then it's just like if they're drunk or something, they're not in full possession of their mental faculties. They can't give informed consent then.
But the law won't see it like that.
Right, and I was like, so why don't people who are campaigning to allow women to retroactively revoke consent, why don't they instead campaign to make, you know, if you're in the early stages of grief, you're not in a position to give full consent. And he said because that would be harder for society to accept, and that's how we got on this topic.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, if they actually had a thing like they have in Romania with the black armbands, that could just be a law. A person wearing a black armband can't make informed consent.
Yes.
And then people start, like, wearing black armbands to bars.
That would be awesome. I mean,
and then it would probably evolve into a different kind of armband.
Well, okay, no, but that actually brings on this thing that I used to talk about, like, because as somebody who's demisexual, I have a huge problem with our culture where it's okay to, like, check out strangers on the street or hit on people, like, in a coffee shop or something.
Checking out whatever, so long as you do it in a way that they don't feel like they're being watched, which is hard.
No, I mean, I don't think it's okay, even if I never know it happens. I live in fear that somebody's going to do it and I'm not going to know.
Okay, but I think it's a little extreme to say it to that extent. Definitely,
okay, I'm buying a burqa now. If that's the only way I can do it, then I'm buying a burqa.
Okay.
I don't want to be involved in any kind of sexual activity without my consent. And if I'm in somebody's fantasy, that's me being involved. And if I haven't consented to that, I'm not okay.
No, I guess I can see it. But definitely things like hitting on random people, catcalling things, that's doing something without someone's consent.
And so what I've always wished was that there was a thing that somebody could wear to say, I'm okay with this or I'm not okay with this. That isn't like, oh, you know, if you're wearing revealing clothing, you want to be hit on. Like, that's one reason why I didn't wear it for years. But I like it. Like, I like wearing it because I personally like it.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe we're going out on a date or I'm going out with some friends and I want to dress up for the people that I'm with, not for the other random shits out there.
Yeah.
That I wish there was some way that you could signal that, and it's not...
And then, of course, there's people who say, well, women like that. No, usually what they say, well, some women like that.
Well, that's why...
And my response is always, well, some women like being whipped as well. That doesn't mean you're going to go around whipping random women.
Well, that's why there should be a signal. And actually, when I was in college, there was they did this thing. I didn't actually go to it, but it was what was called a traffic light party, where you went, and if you wore green, that meant that you were open to that kind of thing. And if you wore red, it meant like, I'm off limits, no, not interested.
What if you wore amber?
I think that meant like I'm not totally off limits, but maybe I'm a little cautious. I need more time to warm up. Like, don't expect to go home with me tonight.
I'm being the agnostic.
Like, and I thought that was great, and that there should be more of that. I mean, because just
in general
being
society.
like, you should never check out or hit on anybody, I understand, like, that's sort of not feasible, but at the same time, there really are people who are profoundly uncomfortable with that.
And just doing it on random people on the street.
Yeah, that, and again, it's not because I'm prudish. Like, I have been a belly dancer. I have done burlesque.
Dominatrix.
Yeah, though you don't have to wear revealing clothing to do dominatrix.
I know, but that definitely proves you're not prudish.
Right, but
that's the point.
Even in terms of like wearing clothing, whatever. But the issue is all about consent. Because if I put on a costume and I go out on stage, then yes, okay, I've given my consent there. And here's the big piece of the puzzle. And I used to have such massive fights about this with my mother. My relationship with my mother was so twisted.
It's worth another podcast.
But I mean, it was so bad. Like, she would encourage me to work less hard in school because I'd be having breakdowns because I was afraid I wouldn't get A's in all my classes. It was the opposite of what parents usually do. She would also fight with me about my resistance to wearing revealing clothing. That, like, I had to give a presentation in class one time and she wanted me to wear, like, a nice suit outfit. And I was like, that's knee length. I'm not showing my calves. I won't wear it. And she got it and she was like, you do belly dance. How can you do belly dance and not wear this? And I said, that's different. I am on stage then. Like, and I couldn't get her to understand. But the thing is, if I'm on stage and I'm, wearing a belly dance costume or I'm doing burlesque or whatever, I'm a character on the stage. Even if I'm, like, doing it...
You've clearly given your consent to people to look at you because you just went on a stage.
Right. Even if I'm, like... those are both also very interactive art forms where you... Frequently in a lot of shows, you're not just on a stage, you're in a bar or a restaurant or something, like, on the same level as the audience, and you're up really close and you interact closely with them, which is one of the reasons why I particularly like those forms of performance. Because it's fun, but in those, like, they're, even if you, like, catch somebody's eye and, like, wink at them or something, they understand, or at least the vast majority of people understand that...
It's a show.
Yeah. It's not saying, I personally find you attractive. It's, like, part of the character. And, whatever. To me, that was a way that I could kind of act out that flirtatious persona without it being a real thing. Because, it had nothing to do with me being, like, actually personally finding that person attractive. It didn't matter what gender they were, what age they were. It was like, oh, hey, there's an audience member. I'm going to, like, make eyes at you because that's what the persona I'm doing does.
Again, this is kind of beside the point, but the point is that you made consent.
Right. Well, that it didn't, like, if I was to wear, like, a revealing outfit out on the street, it's not the same thing. Like, some people think that is giving consent.
Which is bullshit.
The difference to me is that that's real. That there's the sense that in that environment that I am expected to reciprocate in some way. Or not expected to, but, like, if I'm walking...
You're a prude if you don't.
Yeah, if I'm walking down the street and I make eye contact with somebody and I'm wearing, like, a tight dress or something, they might actually think I find them attractive, whereas if I did the same thing on stage, they wouldn't think that. So it's a completely different environment, and it's not the same type of consent. If that makes sense. I don't know. Does that make sense to you? Like, I feel like
The point is, when you're up on a stage wearing revealing clothing, you've clearly given consent for people to look at you.
in that window.
Yes.
In for the duration of that show when I am performing.
Well, yes. You've clearly given your consent for people to look at you during the show.
Yes.
Because otherwise you wouldn't be. But just because you do that kind of thing does not mean you're going to want to do it all the time.
Right.
I mean, you think about normal actors.
I don't know that much about normal actors.
I don't know. It's not like just because they make a movie doesn't mean that they'd be willing to do, like, whatever you want. I don't know.
But yeah, so I mean, I feel like there should be a way for people to signal consent.
Like, wear an armband.
Right. Exactly. That's how I got... And the whole
And
fucking...
the thing in Romania...
Yeah. So, the thing in Romania was when my mom died, my father has Romanian friends. He actually works at the University of Romania. We're going there in a few weeks.
You're scared about flying, I know.
Yeah, and I'm scared about doing a 6-hour presentation. They were talking to him, and they talked about how in Romania they still have like mourning indications. Like they said, oh, here if somebody close to you dies, you wear a black armband for several months afterwards, so people know that you're grieving, and people will be extra nice to you, and they know to be careful and not do certain things and whatever, like to create sort of a safe social space for you. And my father very bitterly replied, no, here they expect you to be back at work the next day and act like nothing happened, which was something that both he and I experienced, and we were very unhappy about it.
I wouldn't know what the experience in Australia would be, but I think the sense would be at least somewhat that would happen. There would be no, like, cultural... Like, it would be up to, like, your boss to, like, treat you special or something like that.
Right, and so therefore if you... And I'm sure there are places in America that do that, but if you
Of course, but...
If you have a job where you're not close with your boss, then that doesn't...
Yeah. Maybe there's more of a social expectation in Australia to be more considerate, but it's definitely not a hard and fast... Like... Nothing like the Confucian thing, where you're expected to go home for like 7 years for a period of mourning.
Yeah.
Was it 3 years or something like that?
I think it depends on who died, but
yeah.
But I mean, the idea of us having signifiers for that is good, and just so that nobody says this, because I know that people will say this, I'm going to go on a rant about this. I think I did this in my video about me being demisexual as well, but engagement rings don't count.
Engagement rings don't count as what?
As signifiers.
Not having an engagement ring doesn't mean you're open.
Yeah. The idea that, and some people will be like this, like, oh, well, before I hit on somebody, I'll look at her hand, and no ring means fair game. And that is the most offensive, most insulting thing ever. It is not okay. Because, again, that's,
if you're from a culture that doesn't use engagement rings?
Yeah, or
there are a few that do that.
Well, but the thing is...
Well, I wouldn't say there are a few. There's probably a lot. There's a few that I can think of. I don't need
to be engaged or even in a committed relationship to not be okay with random strangers checking me out and hitting on me. Like, that's like the religious thing. That's like giving an excuse as to why this is not okay. I'm in a committed relationship, so this is not okay. It's not, I'm not comfortable with this, so this is not okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's going back to the same thing. And it's, it's like, what if I'm in a relationship, but we're not engaged yet? Or what if I'm single and I just don't want that? Like,
yeah.
As inconceivable as that idea might be. Like, and I do know women that wear fake engagement rings. Like, they get a ring that, like, I'm sure it's not a real diamond, but from a distance looks like an engagement ring, and they'll wear it. Like, especially when they, if they want to go out to a bar with friends or something and don't want to be hit on by random creeps, they'll wear like a thing that looks like an engagement ring to like signal for people to stay away. And that's just really, it's awful that has to happen.
Though just as awful as if they have to wear an armband. But anyway.
No, because the armband is actually indicating your desire, as opposed to you're being honest. You're saying, I'm interested in this, or I'm not okay with this, as opposed to me saying, I am lying about my relationship status because that's the only way I can get you to leave me alone.
Yeah, I guess that.
I mean, I think it's perfectly fine for people to be okay with that sort of thing. Am I kind of steamrolling you here?
Sorry?
Nothing.
No, I was just thinking of if I was going somewhere like a bar, I'd probably want to take my engagement ring on and put it in my pocket so I wouldn't lose it. Because I'd be drunk, and it's just like, oh, well, fuck.
Right. Well, men don't usually wear engagement rings anyway, so...
Wait, what?
No, they don't.
Okay.
They'll wear wedding rings, but they're usually boring. Like, well, I mean, you've seen my necklace that I have. I made a necklace with a chain that on it has my mother's engagement ring, my mother's wedding ring, and my father's wedding ring.
Nope.
I usually wear it on Halloween. I probably won't this year because we're going to be in Romania, but and hers is like, she has like a regular like engagement ring with the set diamond in it, the kind of thing I would never wear. And then her wedding ring is like this little silver thing that has little diamonds around it, and my father's is just this plain gold band. And that's usually how it is. Like, only the woman wears an engagement ring, and then the man wears like a man wedding ring, and the woman usually has a more feminine wedding ring.
What does that mean?
Well, like I said...
What does more feminine mean?
Like, my mom's is very thin and has little gemstones set in it, whereas his is like a thick plain gold band.
Okay.
So, I mean, that brings in all kinds of other things about, like, you know, women being more committed than men or whatever, too.
Does it? I don't know.
Well, because the woman is marked as off limits when she gets engaged. She's wearing the engagement ring, but the man is not so marked until after the wedding. Which brings in a lot of other issues.
I see.
And, I mean, part of, I guess, why I find the whole thing rather silly is because my mom didn't wear her rings. Like, she only wore them for special occasions. For that very reason, she was worried about dropping them and losing them or whatever. But,
yeah. Because, yeah, I want to lose ring.
I don't know.
Even with the other rings I wear, I take them off at, like, at certain times.
Yeah, the traditional thing is that a woman never removes her wedding ring except when she's, like, taking a bath or going to sleep at night. And you can get these little things called, like, ring stands or something. And some women will wear both their wedding ring and their engagement ring. With a little, like, this weird thing with a little stick on it that you set next to the bed, so when you get in bed at night, you take off your wedding ring, you put it on the thing on your nightstand, so as soon as you wake up in the morning, you take it out and you put it back on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's, you know, this is like a common traditional wedding gift and stuff, because the idea is that the woman continuously wears her rings so that she is marked as off limits permanently. Yeah.
Stupid, shitty standard system.
What, the SSS?
I don't know.
We have to have acronyms for everything. The S squared, or S cubed.
No, it wouldn't work like that, because S cubed would be like...
Oh God, never.
That would be like 3 dimensions, and no, it's just 3 of them, not 3
Never try to make a
dimensions.
math joke to an autistic person.
Well, I have to explain it more. Like, if you just say S cubed, that's saying, like, S in 3 dimensions, but this is just 3 S's. Like... It's not like a 3-dimensional S or anything.
Can I assert my right to be uncomfortable with this right now?
No. A mass violation.
You mean a math violation?
Yes. Violating with math.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know, that's still a pretty shitty joke. I know, it is still kind of a rape joke. I don't know.
For somebody who hates math as much as me, like, math ruined, like, 10 years of my life or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. Right to feel uncomfortable and all that.
Yeah, no.
I probably shouldn't have made that joke in a podcast about your right to feel uncomfortable. I am really sorry.
Yeah, we don't, I mean, to be fair, and we joke about a lot of things, and, you know, it's all in good fun.
There are things we joke privately that we don't want to joke to everyone in the world.
In all seriousness, like, my mom was a rape victim, so I'm not trying to invalidate anybody's experience or, like, you know, make it seem like I'm making light of that. I mean,
I was the one doing it, so...
Yeah, but if I felt like you were being insensitive, I would have... I mean, the point is that even if I do occasionally joke about things that could be construed that way, the second that it's a real situation where somebody's like, I feel, you know,
uncomfortable,
sexually, like, violated or whatever, I'm afraid this is happening. Because I've also been sexually assaulted twice in my own life. In addition...
Twice? I thought it was only once.
No.
There was the guy who was, like, following you back with the cart.
Yeah, that was just a few years ago, and then I was sexually assaulted in the forest when I was 16.
Oh, yeah, that thing.
So there's...
Yeah, that horrible traumatic thing. Oh, yeah, that thing. Sorry.
Well, no, I mean... So, it's not like...
I'm a horrible person.
I mean, you are in a lot of ways, but it's okay. But yeah, it's like, even if I make jokes about it, the second, like, somebody is talking about their actual real experience, I 100% am dead serious. Like, what happened to you is not funny. Like, period. End of story. Yeah. So, I mean, again, because I have a friend who is really into, like, suicide prevention, and my views on that are a whole nother thing. And she's really, like, anti people making suicide jokes. Though what she considers suicide jokes are more just people, like, flippantly making comments about suicide, which is slightly different. And I don't know how I feel about suicide jokes, but anything...
What would be a suicide joke?
Well, that's why I asked her what it would be, and she...
I don't know. How do you make suicide funny? I mean... I don't know, maybe... Well, see, now we're thinking about how to make suicide funny, and that's kind of horrible, but seriously, how do you make it funny?
Well, I mean, in the college that I went to, there was this really deep stairwell that people like to throw stuff down. Like, it was like 10 floors with a well in it. And, like, people would throw things like old computers or pumpkins or sacks of flour down this, like, it was like 6 stories or whatever well, and then there would be somebody at the bottom watching it explode, and presumably take pictures or something. And it was called Architect's Leap because the joke was that the architecture students, who were even more massively stressed and overworked than other students at the school, would use it as a route to kill themselves. And there was like a poem on the wall about it. Again,
that's not really a joke on... I guess that is a suicide joke, but... Yeah, no, it's using suicide as a delivery method to poke fun at something. Yeah, so that is a suicide joke. Okay.
And the thing was, that was there for years and years, and then somebody actually... I don't know if somebody actually committed suicide there...
Maybe they attempted it.
Or if somebody just committed suicide somewhere else on the campus. I mean, that campus did have a fairly high rate of suicide because it was a really demanding school and people were super stressed. But And then they, like, painted over the thing and, like, shut it down and stuff. And I guess I did think that was bad that they did that. I mean, of course.
To say, oh, it's only okay, it's only bad now that somebody's actually done it.
I mean, the thing was, that was a massive part of, like, the campus's history and blah, blah, blah. It was
Oh, okay, but that's not really an excuse. Slavery's a massive part of America's history as well.
Well, I'm not saying, like, make sure that people don't kill themselves there. But, like, to, like, cover it over and pretend that, like, none of this ever happened.
Okay, no, that is a good point. Yeah, just because covering something up and pretending it didn't happen is not good.
I mean, I thought that whole thing was fairly harmless. Like, again, to me, it's like treat the disease, not the symptom.
This is something about suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very unintuitive, the things that can actually trigger somebody to commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe talking about Architect's Leap that could be one of the things that can do it. Because I know there's this certain procedure on the news.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain way you have to talk about it. There's a certain way... No, Laura was talking to us about this.
Yes, I was actually curious to know more about that.
I know one of the things is you can't talk about how they were trying to escape something.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't talk about... There's this weird set of rules.
I mean, to me, rather than shutting down Architect's Leap, what they should have done is find ways to better address the stress issues that were driving students to kill themselves.
Of course, but...
Just like...
I'm not saying that doing this didn't do anything, though. I'm just pointing that out.
Just like the way that, rather than, like, demonizing people from, say, Columbine, we might look into what drove them to do it and therefore work to prevent that happening in the future by addressing the underlying issues rather than anyway the point,
of course the underlying issues were video games.
That's another deep topic, but it's like if and it's not like I don't know if I
was being sarcastic, just making sure everyone understands.
It's not that I don't know if I've ever made a suicide related joke. You will occasionally hear us make racist jokes, sexist jokes, gender related jokes, and
we will say it's perfectly okay for you to not be okay with us making jokes. I don't know. I will definitely say you have every right to feel offended.
But, I mean, what I'm saying is, even if we do occasionally make those jokes, at least for me, the second, again, that there's a real person there with a real issue, I am totally, there to back you up. It's not, it isn't being insensitive to the fact that these issues exist. In a way, it's like, these issues exist. I mean, how do I say this?
Yeah, well, that's how you see it, and other people might not, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean...
Just please try to understand we are not being malicious here.
Yeah, we're not trying to say that, these issues are not important at all. I mean, one of the reasons, I guess, that I make jokes about it is because I think about these issues all the time, and it's pretty depressing, and this is, I'm trying to not be overly serious about these issues that are extremely important to me.
Though I will say, it is a common thing in human nature in general, but also in American culture, to just laugh at problems,
yeah, and that's totally not okay.
No. No, even problems that you have, just, laugh at problems that you have, in an attempt to, make the pain go away.
Yes.
And when you do that, that can kind of end up in not addressing the issue.
Yes, and you know how I feel about that. That is totally not the
laughing
solution.
it off, I think is the term is.
No, like, laughter can be a powerful tool to do many good things, but it should never be used.
It is
to hide things or sweep them under the rug or something.
Yeah, no. Laughter is a powerful tool. And maybe not even intentionally sweep things under the rug, but people will laugh to not mentally address them. And I know, the thing is, because of what you said, you do it to try to escape the pain you feel. But you, like, try to deal with the pain first and then laugh.
Yes,
a lot of people default to the laughing it off. I know my mother was really like this, who is American. Her default with a lot of, like, horrible things was to laugh them off. And it was really obvious it didn't work with her.
I'm sorry about that. But yeah, that's and there's a lot of social pressure to do that.
I don't know if there's any direct social pressure. That's just something that I've noticed, especially in American culture.
Well, we could go on and on about American culture, but I've said one of my big problems with American culture is that in a situation where somebody gets hurt, the blame seems to be not on the person who hurt them, but on them for being hurt.
Yeah. Victim blaming.
Yes. And we're not, when I talk about victim blaming, I'm not talking about, like, victim blaming and rape, though I'm sure that
but it's all connected. It's all victim blaming. It's all your fault.
But it's like,
because if you blame the perpetrator, you start to realize maybe there's something wrong with society.
Well, but, I mean, I'm not even saying, like, it's their fault, but it's like, they're at fault for feeling hurt. Like,
yeah.
You know, it's like if someone dumps you, you're supposed to just get over it and feel better. And if you are hurt and you grieve about it, it's not that the other person is a shit person for hurting you. It's that you're emotionally unbalanced because you're feeling pain.
Here's the thing, though. That's usually said to women, but it's actually not as often said to men.
Because men don't even get to the point of showing their pain.
No, men who show pain are often a lot more, coddled than women.
I'm not a man, so I don't know about these things.
This is just from what I've seen. To be fair, this is what I've seen from internet culture, so...
Yeah, I don't know if we can trust that entirely.
Still...
I say to internet people, which is probably a bad idea.
You're all shit.
Okay. That's probably... We're like over time here. That's probably really not a good note to end the podcast on.
It's all shit. Everyone who's watching this is shit. Well, that is what you take away from this.
Fortunately, probably nobody's watching it, so you won't have made anyone feel bad. I don't think you're all shit. I think there must be nice people on the internet. They're just really hard to find.
Because the shit people are the loudest.
Yeah, that was kind of where we started with this whole thing hours ago, was how people...
Because we were talking about cultural appropriation.
Yeah, and how, like, the people...
But we already did a cultural appropriation podcast.
Yes. Well,
though you did agree with me that thing was definitely cultural appropriation.
Okay, now you're trying to segue into this, which we
No, I'm just trying to segue into the fact that I was right. She's not amused.
No, this is one of the things we don't laugh about.
Me being always right?
Yes. We should probably go play Shit Quest soon.
Oh, I completely forgot that.
Yes, I don't want to, but this podcast is so far over time now. Nobody wants to listen to us rattle on about this.
Yeah.
All right, bye everybody.
Oh, remember how we found out that the second King's Quest episode was the lowest rated? Why are we talking
about this? We should talk about that in our Let's Play.
Yeah, okay.
Bye everybody.